Whenever you do a digital rendering, sometimes you only want to work within one particular object or area. And in Photoshop, there's 3 different ways you can select or mask out those particular areas. These tend to come in handy. Some work better than others in certain situations, but knowing how to use all 3 of these will greatly improve your ability to quickly do renderings. In my layers panel, I'm going to go in and just create a new transparent layer, and we're going to do our drawing on this layer. The first way you can mask out an area is by using any of your selection tools. The marquees, the lassos, even the quick select and magic wand tool will all allow you to define a certain area. So in my case, let's say I wanted to create something like a donut. I'll do one selection, and then I'll go in with minus mode, and maybe I'll select out this middle portion here. Once I've got an area selected, I can grab my paintbrush. Let's make my brush a little bit larger. And I can go in and start to paint inside of it. Notice now that because I've got a selected area, my brush stays only inside of that particular spot. And even if I try to paint outside of it, nothing's going to happen. So using these selection tools to make a selection of an area is one quick and easy way of masking out exactly what you want to be able to draw in without affecting any other areas. Just make sure once you're finished to go up to select and deselect it, then it'll go back into normal painting mode. The next method you can work in leverages the transparency of the layer you're working on. If we go back to my layers panel, notice that I worked on a transparent layer, and I only want to be able to say paint some highlights and shadows into the donut that I have. So what I'm going to do is to lock down the transparent pixels and only allow me to paint on an area that's got some sort of pixel to it. Now we've used locks before where you can lock down an entire layer, not being able to move it, change it, do anything to it. The other kind of lock that you can do is known as a transparent pixel lock, and that's the first lock that's here. With this one, all of the transparent pixels are now locked down. So if I was to go in, and let's choose maybe a darker version of this color, I'll drop my opacity down. With this, when I start to paint, now it's going to stay only inside of that particular area. So very quickly and easily I can paint out the shadows, or swap back over to highlights and add a highlight edge to whatever side that I'm working on as well. So transparency lock is one quick and easy way of doing this. Just make sure, however, you're working on a subject that is on a transparent layer. And then once you turn off that transparency lock, you can go back into normal painting mode as well. So this comes in handy when adding highlights and details only inside of this particular area. But let's say I wanted to add something a little bit more complex. Let's say I wanted to add something like a texture or even a picture inside of this particular area. This is where having a clipping mask comes in handy. I'm going to add a texture of bread to this area by going to File and Place, and I found this texture online. If I was to place this in here, and we'll lock it down, notice that it creates its own layer on top of my little donut layer 1. Now, because it's inside of its own layer, I can do everything to it that I would normally do to any layer. So for instance, if I wanted to scale this up, I can go to Edit and Transform, hit Scale, and I can make it as large and fill up the entire area. But I want this bread to fill in the pink part of the donut that I've created. So in order to clip it inside of that area, we can go up to Layer, down to Create Clipping Mask. The keyboard shortcut for this, if you're on a Mac, is Option-Command-G. With this done, now you can see everything else is gone or clipped inside of it, and it only fits inside of our donut area. Check out our Layers panel. Inside the layers, I know that it's clipped because there's a little arrow pointing down to the area or layer that it's clipped into. Now it's still its own individual layer. I can actually go in with my Move tool and move it around and place it exactly where I want it to go. I can scale it up and do whatever I need to this particular layer. I can even paint on it and do any kind of transparency change. For instance, I can go in and change my blending mode from normal to something like overlay, and now the texture is starting to blend in with the colors that are underneath it as well. And so using clipping mask can be very, very powerful and give you a lot of flexibility for adding details and structures to a painting that's already existed onto here as well. The main thing to remember about clipping mask is that you want to have whatever you're clipping on top of the layer that you're clipping into. Another advantage to this is that you can actually have multiple clipping masks. So let's say from here I wanted to add even more highlights and shadows. All I've got to do is create another layer. So this layer 2 is on top of here. And then I can go back in and create another clipping mask of this layer. Let me give you a keyboard shortcut. If you hold down the Option or Alt key and click between it, this will also automatically create a clipping mask inside of here. Now with this layer selected, I can grab my brush tool and I can go in and start adding more details and painting just inside of this area. So working within these different means are all different ways of masking, selecting, or even clipping out different parts of whatever illustration you're working on.